Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Don't Tell Me How to Fan. My name is Josh Albrecht, and with me, as always, is my good buddy, John Taylor. John, how we doing?
Hey, Josh, I'm good. Last time we spoke, I went under the knife.
Yeah.
And I'm basically back to 100%. So
That's perfect. And you
Yeah.
had some time to enjoy some March Madness basketball,
yep,
right? Which we all did.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
not wrong. Theoretically, I could have done that.
Well, let me tell you something. Here's a bracket, and here's what happened.
Oh, did yours get busted? How?
It's just
Oh, I have mine. I wanted to. We'll still check in about it. I'm curious. I'm still curious about
it's exactly what I needed. Look, I don't know if. But let me start by saying this, okay? March Madness is still the greatest thing.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% will die on that hill. It's better than the Super Bowl, better than the World Series, better than anything else. This year, the first two rounds were a little sad. There was not, you had the 12-5 upsets, right? You had those. You had
Colorado State
yep.
over. That's the big one.
Memphis. You had that one.
Yeah, that was bad for my bracket. I had Memphis going pretty deep.
I had Colorado State. You also had McNeese over Clemson.
Yep.
As the other 12-5.
Yep.
Love that McNeese had a hype guy. Did you? They had a. I don't know even. Literally, it's just like the manager, right? The team manager.
Oh yeah.
Walked out with a boombox strapped to him, playing songs, getting the team hype. You know, you love seeing those little quirk things in the tournament every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had those 12-5s, but the 12-5 was the biggest upset. No 13-4s.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So no seed beyond the 12 making it to the round of 32. And then everything else past that first round of 32 was all chalk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think at this point, looking at the overall standing, and New Mexico and Michigan State are playing against each other right now. New Mexico being a 10 seed, which beat Marquette, the 7.
Yeah.
But I don't believe any high seed making it to the Sweet 16 this year.
No, I think
you're no Cinderella
right.
no Cinderella team to cheer for, or break everything.
Yeah. Being in Wisconsin and allegiances to the Badgers and Marquette. Do you root for both teams? Where do we land on that? We didn't really discuss.
Yeah. So I do, just because why not?
Yeah.
I'm not a diehard. I didn't go to school at either school. My wife did go to Madison, but she doesn't really care. But it's just, it's fun to cheer for those teams. I also, though, usually will believe in Marquette making it further than Wisconsin every time. It just feels like Wisconsin men's basketball and the way that they play basketball in the Big Ten only works in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to the tournament and, things just don't work the same. I don't know what it is. If it's just a matchup against a team that plays in a different conference, that plays different ball. I don't know. It seems like they play slow. They rely on one or two things too heavily, and it never ends up working. So usually, I cheer for both, but usually it's Marquette that makes it a round or so further. This year, Marquette limped into the tournament, right? Like a month ago, there was talk of them being a 2 seed, in February.
Yeah.
And then when March came around, they end up a 7 seed, which obviously was even too high. They had probably some injuries, some other things going against them, but they limped in. They get beat 75-66 by New Mexico, 10 seed. They're out in the round of 64. Then you have Wisconsin, a 3 seed, great seeding, honestly. They have a great year. They crush Montana. All right, now I understand Montana's a 14 seed, but if you've watched the Badgers play in previous tournaments, they always have you ready to pull your hair out in every game they play.
Yep.
And so the fact that they just crushed by 19 Montana, even though they were a 14 seed, was very un-Badger-like, to where I went, maybe these guys are different. Maybe this could be something. Then in the battle of, the teams with white boys, BYU they ended up beating Wisconsin 91-89, but it wasn't until the last few minutes that the game even became close. BYU was in control the majority of the game. They had a shot. The Badgers had a shot at the buzzer, and it was a terrible look. It was like he was trying to draw the foul. Tanji did, and it just didn't work, and they lose 91-89. And so neither Wisconsin team making it to the Sweet 16. Now, I got to say, one of the things that I really love about March Madness is that these two teams are out, and yet I still enjoy the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
If that isn't proof enough of why this tournament's better than the World Series or the Super Bowl, there you go. Because if it's a Super Bowl and you know your team's out, are you really into it? You'll watch it, but you're still not into it. And that's the difference.
Totally. Did you? Yeah, I'm trying to think. I do root for Marquette and Wisconsin. It's not like I don't like those schools. I didn't go to either, so I definitely don't really care. College basketball as a product, there was a little while where I thought it was good and interesting. I don't know. I don't know what it is about it now. Probably because a lot of the guys are just getting their 1 year in and out. I mean, it's been like that for a long time, but I remember 10 years ago thinking like, oh, is college basketball a better product than the NBA? And maybe it's because the Bucks were pretty bad 10 years ago. And maybe I'm just like focusing
more into the NBA now.
Yeah, I'm definitely more into the NBA now. I just think it's like a higher executed level of basketball. I just feel like in this tournament, especially just watching or scoreboard watching a lot of these games, it just seems like teams can't get back from behind. It is like really, if your team is up by like 10 points, it's just going to kind of be how the game goes out. And they might get it close at the end, but it's just like a lot of teams are just lacking a lot of talent up and down. And maybe that's part to do with international play. Maybe it's G League stuff, but it's just like the rosters aren't as competitive. At least they don't seem to feel as competitive to me. Obviously, you can always.
I have a theory. So first of all, I think that the tournament as a product is still good. I've never really been into college basketball before the tournament. Yeah. Conference tournaments I'll watch, but it's in preparation for March Madness. That being said, I think that a lot of people, and like you said, like the one and dones, I think that mentality is what created a lot of the underdog stories and the upsets that we're used to, right? Because you had these teams that were going to be one and dones versus these teams in smaller conferences, these mid-majors that had players that played for 4 years because they weren't going to get into the NBA right away. And so it allowed for a little bit more fair of a fight. Then the NIL money came, the name, image, likeness money came, and everyone thought, well, this is going to level the playing field because now a team that is a mid-major or not a blue blood, Duke, Kansas, take your pick, is going to be able to pay money to build their own roster. And it's not going to be everyone going to Duke, everyone going to Michigan, everyone going to Kansas, everyone going to whoever. What I'm seeing is that it's making those one and dones now stay at the Dukes and stay at the schools because they're getting paid good money to play college basketball. And I think that that's just, at least in my opinion, that's a factor that is making it to why maybe the NIL money is having that opposite effect this year, because there have not been a huge amount of upsets or even close games. Honestly, in the first round, Creighton destroyed Louisville, and that was 89-75, and that was awesome to see. But that was a 9-8 upset. Mm-hmm. So I don't even really know if you can call it an upset. Beyond that, a lot of the games, teams weren't even close. Look, Baylor as a 9 played Duke the 1, and they lost by almost 30. That's not an entertaining product. That's not what you want to see. And so I do wonder if I don't know how the ratings are going to come back on this, but I wonder if everyone kind of looks at this, and they won't do anything about it this year. But if things are like the same next year, maybe the year following, I wonder if the NCAA looks at this as, all right, we're trying to figure out things with college football and NIL money, but the NIL money on the basketball side has really made the madness kind of dwindle in March. We got to figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to have a fun little Cinderella story up to a certain point. But yeah, it's not fun watching them. It's not fun watching a lot of the Cinderella teams get cut off at the knees in the second round, right? I think part of the Cinderella story is getting every year you at least get one team or two teams at least making it to the Sweet 16, and then kind of either, at some point Goliath beats David. It's 1 out of 10 times, David won, and that's the story we remember. But it is fun. I thought not New Mexico, Colorado State literally won that game until 1.2 seconds left. Did you see that shot? The Maryland player banked it in with 1 second left to go. So, it is what it is. I do like competitive basketball, and the tournament is great context to just kind of like dive back in. So as the games stop being so overwhelming, I'll actually probably start making it a point to like at least have it on in the background while I'm doing other things, because it is fun. 64 games, it's almost impossible to wrap my head around how this tourney is going to go. But once you hit the Sweet 16, it's like, oh, cool. So there's going to be 8 games, and then I can start, like locking it in that way, which is pretty fun. And then also there's a little bit of time in between. I do love how absurd it is. It's 32 basketball games, 16 games get played each day on Thursday and Friday. That is a fun spectacle. But for me, it's just like, it's not as fun. It's not terrible, but it's not as fun as I wish it was. So
yeah,
not really riveting analysis. It's a fun tournament. I love checking in. I mean, it'll literally go on. We'll still be talking about the March Madness tournament when we record next week, and then we'll be discussing the final in the following. So it's not impossible. The Elite Eight will be over by the next time we record, which is pretty cool. So it's moving and grooving right along. Me being but living in Oregon now officially, in next month, it'll be 10 years, which is crazy to say out loud. But it'll be 10 years that I've lived out here. I'm rooting for Oregon against Arizona. I think it's unlikely that they make it through, but you never know. I mean, 4 versus 5 doesn't seem too crazy. So, and I had that all right. I had the Upper East bracket all correct. I was trying to think how many. I know you ripped up your bracket, but do you have any official tally of let's go. How many did you get wrong in the first round? I'm curious about.
So I took UC San Diego over Michigan. That was dumb.
Right.
Let me go through here. I took North Carolina because based on their first 4 game, I thought that they were going to destroy. They didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I took Marquette as the homer pick to get past New Mexico. So my upper left, my south region was dog shit.
Yep.
I did take Colorado State, which I think was my only upset. I did take Drake over Missouri because fuck Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
I think I took Kansas. So I think in my West, Arkansas over Kansas was the only one I didn't have. And then looking here quickly, I don't think I had any upsets in the Midwest. So McNeese over Clemson hurt.
Yep.
And then in the East, I took Mississippi State over Baylor. So that was a loss. And I took VCU over BYU, which obviously that didn't happen either. So those, I had like 5 or 6 losses in just the first round. And I definitely didn't have BYU going to the Sweet 16.
I had VCU beating BYU because I always think those Virginia, Virginia schools are always a little squirrely. Yeah, I had 7 wrong in my first round. I had North Carolina just beating Ole Miss off the strength of blue blood. We kind of talked about it. I thought for sure Marquette would go through, and then dropping down if we're going from left to right. The only pick I had wrong in the West was Memphis, which hurt because I really had Memphis going on a Cinderella run to the Sweet 16, and they're not going to do that. So 3 on that side, and then 4 on the other. I had, this is weird. I did not have as many wrong as I thought.
I was going to say, it didn't sound like 7. But
I only had 6. Yeah, I had VCU losing to BYU. I thought Vandy would upset St. Mary's. It didn't happen. And then I thought Utah State would upset UCLA. I just 10. I don't know. I think I just got a little excited about it. What is that?
I feel like a lot of people did. I saw something that said that there was like only 1 bracket left. Only 1 perfect bracket left.
That doesn't surprise me with that.
Okay, but it does because there aren't that many upsets. Like you'd think
Yeah.
that people that went more chalk
Mhm.
would mean more perfect brackets. Not the case. People were just used to the upsets, and they didn't happen a ton this year. I mean, I
Yeah.
took Michigan to lose in the 5-12, and now they're going to the Sweet 16 to face Auburn. So
I have that exactly correct. I think I told you I had
I took
Michigan.
Texas A&M,
I
yeah.
think I told you in the Sweet 16 I have I have Michigan beating Auburn and Michigan State beating North Carolina. Well, so that's where my bracket gets real bad. I had Ole Miss and Iowa State, and then I had North Carolina beating Iowa State. So that whole little bracket, I'm wrong all the way up until Michigan State can
yeah.
get me back right again. But yeah, I only had 6 wrong, so I felt pretty good. Yeah, so
I think the bigger issue is that look, there's always going to be games that we have wrong, but it was just the lack of close games.
Yeah.
That really
yeah,
sucked.
I want more buzzer beaters. It's more fun to just be super invested and hoping.
I promise you that still the best moment of the tournament happened in the first 4 with Alabama State.
Yeah. I don't know. This Maryland win is going to be pretty sick for a long time.
That's true.
That bank in at the end. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But like I don't know. It's just that's disappointing. You want to see something, some memorable moment, and I don't feel like there were enough of them. So, and we'll see. I mean, like you want to keep up hope, right? Like New Mexico and Michigan State right now, 10-2 matchup. They're up 31-29 at the time of this recording going into half, but who knows? That could be Michigan State win by 15.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Is there anything in your Sweet 16? Is there any matchup that just straight up can't happen? Like, so
yeah,
I
had Texas A&M in my Sweet 16.
Oh yeah. Well, I just mean like, so I'll say it this way. In my Florida versus UConn, I had UConn winning, so that was wrong because Florida won today. And then I had Memphis beating Maryland, which literally can't happen because, well, Maryland already won the game, but Memphis wasn't a part of it. So my Sweet 16 out of like the upper Sweet 16 out of the West is UConn versus Memphis, which just straight up can't happen.
Yeah. You mean to get to the Elite Eight?
Yeah, I like literally just can't get that part of my bracket right at all. And then I had Drake versus St. John's in
oh wow, you had Drake going to the Sweet 62.
Yeah, I don't know why. I didn't think I was just
falling to Texas Tech. So, but I had Texas Tech and St. John's. So I guess looking at the Sweet 16 in the West, I have one team in each. Midwest, I have perfect. East, I have Alabama, I had, and Duke, I had. And then in the South, I had Michigan. So, no, I don't have any situation with 0 teams making it.
Yeah, my entire West bracket, I realize, is Drake versus St. John's, which is just not even close to being correct. I literally don't have anything in the Sweet 16 in the West. None of my games, I don't have anybody.
Yeah,
I had UConn versus St. John's.
That's your brutal bracket.
That's my brutal region for sure.
Yeah.
Some of my other ones look genius. Like I said, if I somehow get Michigan versus Michigan State, I'm going to look like a genius.
Let's talk right now about Ole Miss being up 20 points on Iowa State in the 6-3. I believe I said it last week, but I will die on this hill that Iowa State will always be a disappointment.
Yeah.
I feel like they lose as the higher seed every single year.
Yeah. I had North Carolina beating Iowa State to go to the Sweet 16. So I was right there with you. I just had the wrong team.
Yeah. I did too. I had North Carolina, especially because they crushed.
Yeah.
They crushed San Diego State.
Yeah. Yeah. Wisconsin really fricked my bracket up because I just assumed if they could get past, well, in my head, it was VCU. So BYU is closer. 3-6. If I would have had that right, I don't know if I would have picked Wisconsin. But I had Wisconsin beating Alabama for fun. And now I think Alabama's probably going to be Duke, Alabama in the
I have Alabama going to the championship game.
Yeah.
I had Alabama beating Duke, which also looks impossible because Duke has just been they beat Mount St. Mary's, I know 16-1, but they beat them by almost 50.
Yep.
And then they beat Baylor by almost 30.
Wow.
They are destroying.
Yeah. My round 2, now that Utah State is out, so Tennessee won. I still could go perfect from the second round in. All of my teams are at play. So I got Houston versus Purdue, and then I've got Kentucky versus Tennessee. So I guess none of those are really upsets anymore. Especially the way Illinois played. I feel really good about it. I guess I never really thought Yeah, I didn't want chalk. Those teams, I just think like Purdue's a better school than Clemson, which is obvious. You know what I mean? Like I just like 4 versus 5 is like the closest to potential upset, and to me that just didn't make sense. I picked Oregon, so we'll see what happens with that game.
Which is why like Colorado State was like kind of your last. I mean, Arkansas, I don't know. I don't really feel like a 10 making it to the Sweet 16 is that huge of a story. No. If Arkansas goes on to beat Texas Tech and there's a 10-3 upset that sends Arkansas to the Elite Eight, okay, now you can say a 10 seed in the Elite Eight, that's something.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like everything is 1-5, 1-4, 2-3, 1-4, 2-6, and then either 1-5 or 1-4. So a lot of just blah, which kind of sucks. Sucks, man. But what are you going to do? Except for complain about it, because that's what we do as fans of sports.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. It's still better than anything else. It's still fun. It's the only thing that I feel like you can really get behind, even if you don't really care about any of the schools or any of the teams. You definitely don't feel this way about college football. I absolutely hate people that come at me and go, the college football is just as good. You're nuts. It's not even close.
Yeah.
The college football product is a joke in comparison to March Madness.
Well, it's tough too, because I think like, I didn't think it's not wrong that they needed to make a formal tournament as opposed to just taking the student rank. Like, I think they've gotten closer and closer to being better, but I think some of the pageantry that I loved in like the 90s as a kid is gone. Like the Orange Bowl and the Sugar Bowl and the
right. Those don't mean anything anymore.
And they used to all rotate who the champ, and they still do rotate who that championship game is. But I just mean like, yeah, I don't know. They just like all of a sudden I'm watching like, I don't know, let's call it like the 6 seed versus the 4 seed. And they're like, yeah, you're watching the Sugar Bowl. And I'm like, I am? I thought I was watching the second round of this tournament. So it's like some of the fun pageantry and like, and part of that is just learning as a fan how it changes. But some of the big bowls that were never going to be the championship bowl just are getting swept up into tournament fodder now. And that's not fun. That I don't love that. I wish that somehow maybe they could, I don't know. I still don't know how they make it better, because ultimately the only way to make it better, in my opinion, is to be playing more football games, and players this close to them declaring for the draft isn't going to happen. Because in my head, I'm like, okay, you do the tournament as teams fall off, you use those consolation prizes, and maybe those teams start battling for some of the other larger bowls. That'd be fun if you were like, oh shoot, like the 3 and the 4 seed, instead of it just kind of being like, oh, who cares, you didn't get to the finals. Like, what if they actually played a football game in the Sugar Bowl, but to not win the Natty and then also potentially get injured? Like, it's just not going to happen. So it's just like, there's no great way to do it. I think everybody's trying. I think 12's the right way, but how long until everyone just says then we need 16? Because you look at like teams like Oregon who got a bye. Like, didn't all the bye teams lose, or all but one, and then they didn't get a home game? That is the thing that didn't make sense. So you sacrificed a home game and got a bye. I think we talked about it. I might be rehashing stuff we already discussed, but anyways,
it's not the same. Yeah. And I don't know how they make it the same.
You can't be, like I don't,
make it the same it's not, give up that.
Yeah. Being a 1 seed and losing a home game during a college football tournament seems absurd to me. Yeah, and when you talk about momentum, it's like, you want to talk about the fact that Ohio State got to beat the pants off of Tennessee and then roll right to Oregon and do it again. You know what I mean? I just mean like it was beneficial for them to be where they were at. And anyways, we're kind of on a tangent today. Where do you want to bounce around to next? Bounce around.
Well, you said that there was some Brewers news that I hadn't heard, so I'm curious.
Yeah, there is some Brewers news.
What's going on?
So Mark Canha traded to the Royals,
but we just got him back.
Yeah, well, it was a minor league deal. And now he's gone. It's a minor league deal. It's more interesting about what it signals, and we can go over that once we talk about these roster moves. Mark Canha got traded to the Royals for a player to be named later, or cash. I think safe money is on cash.
Yeah,
but to sign a guy and have him produce enough to like be able to trade him is pretty cool. I like that. Another one was Manuel Margot. He got released yesterday. So both of our potential outfield rotational guys that we brought in, from all I've read and from what I've heard in terms of like spring training and just bouncing around articles, I'm pretty sure he's just not the same guy after that injury. They
Yeah.
signed him hoping maybe, and it's just like he's cooked. And I think the Brewers were pretty aware of that. So you bring him in, you see what he's got. The answer is not a lot. It sounds like he's going to the Tigers, but we released him, so and then he signed with the Tigers.
Yeah,
so,
we straight up said nah.
So yeah, and then what's the last big? Oh, and then the biggest thing, Caleb Durbin, one half of our Devin Williams trade, option to Nashville.
Not great.
Not great.
Although at this point, opening day is a week away, and so they're putting this stuff together.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone at spring training makes the opening day roster.
Yeah,
that's pretty standard. Doesn't mean that you're not going to see these guys.
Yeah, I think I think it's not going to be long until Durbin gets called up. I think it really is speaks to control. I think they really like what Capra did. There's two things at play here. Capra does not have an option back down to the minor leagues with the Brewers, I'm pretty sure. So he needs to make the roster, or he's going to get signed by somebody else.
Right.
Or, he could get waived, and then maybe we could bring him back. He's played well enough that he should just be on the team. So you look at like Capra and his situation, and then Durbin. Durbin still has time left, to be in the minors. Apparently, they weren't loving his ability to throw from third to first, and so they were talking about potentially moving him to second. It just sounds like he might need more time. I was asking my buddy Andrew, who hosts the Cruising for Risen podcast, big fan. I was like, how concerned should I be that half of the piece? And he was like, yeah, I don't know, like a 3 out of 10. And I was like, that's kind of how I feel, because none of these options felt great at third, and it's not like he was going to be. It's not like we got a starting caliber third baseman and he played so bad we have to ship him down, So, hopefully some more time. You never know with control shenanigans. Maybe if they did like him, not enough to keep him down here. The big piece, I think, is going to be if Nestor Cortez doesn't produce like he did last year. I mean, his numbers with the Yankees, even though the Yankees fans decided he was awful because of one inning in the playoffs, go figure. You slot him into the Brewers rotation with his numbers last year, and we're going to be very excited about Nestor Cortez. And I'm excited. Yeah. I think our pitching lab,
but he's like, show it.
Yeah, but he's been on record being like, I'm very excited. I haven't been this excited to throw in a long time. I think it's very obvious that the Brewers pitching staff knows what they're doing, and I think they can unlock some stuff for him too. So I think that's awesome. I mean, getting more word out like that, I think is really big in terms of getting big league arms, maybe in free agency or in trade. If players have like trade vetoes or whatever, because I just think like it in the same way, like this Rhys Hoskins deal might work out well for him. If he rakes, like if he produces with these numbers throughout the entire regular season, he's going to get paid somewhere else. And if we have to be the landing spot for a pitcher to recoup his value or a big league hitter to like kind of recoup after a big injury, it's like, so be it. We just catch lightning in this bottle. We put a bunch of competitive young athletes around them and hope for the best. But that was going to be my big thing about the Mark Canha thing. The outfield is pretty well set. And it was really, you brought in Mark when Blake went down.
Yep.
But Blake's going to be back. And I think right now you're talking about the fact that there's Isaac Collins. He's on the 40-man roster. He has versatility to play in the infield and the outfield. You start talking about the fact that like Bryce Terang is kind of dealing with a weird shoulder injury that put him back on second. You look at the fact that we called down and released guys who could have played first. Mark didn't play a ton at third, so it was never great when he did, but you just talk about Durbin going down. So I think they're just going to be happy with what they have right now, standing pat until the opening day roster, and then kind of seeing what shakes loose. Because I think Oliver Dunn, Pat Murphy has been speaking glowingly of Oliver Dunn about he had a hot start and then kind of got demoted, and they're hoping that upward trajectory just keeps him here. You got to think he's probably going to go him against righties, and then Capra versus lefties is my guess. But we're facing a lot of left-handed pitchers to start off the league, and it's like how long? Yeah.
And and I was going to say that's the big thing to realize too, is that for like what feels like the 17th year in a row, the Brewers do not start the regular season at home. They're on the road. And so even though opening day at American Family Field is about a week away, the season starts on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, we got baseball
So-
on Thursday. I'm so excited.
There's literally tomorrow is the last spring training game.
Yeah.
And then the roster will be set, and
Mhm.
then they're on their way to New York for a 3-game series to start the regular season, and boom, they're off and
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
And then they'll have those Royals, those same Royals that they just traded Mark Hanna to, will come to Milwaukee, and we'll get to finally see some baseball.
Yep. Yeah.
So, I mean, here's the beautiful thing about baseball is that for someone who has fan anxiety, it works. I'm not giving up on that, but it's 162 games.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
could lose like 6 in a row to start the season, and it's like, just be happy baseball's here.
Mhm.
You don't got to worry about anything.
Yeah.
The Packers lose their first 2 games, and the sky is falling. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? It's much different, and it's beautiful that they play as many games as they do, and just gives you time to enjoy the sport.
Yeah. I'm putting you on the spot here because we didn't really talk about this, but you bring up a fantastic point that the season
Ooh,
will
are
have
we gonna do
started
this right now? Son of
this season.
beast.
We got to start making some predictions here.
Oh, shoot, you're right. We did not.
That's fine. I can go first, or I can also.
Yeah, you go
if you want.
first.
Well, so here's my before I go first on some preseason predictions about how the season's going to go. I think I just don't understand why the Brewers were even thinking about moving Bryce Trang off second base. I just don't get it. Unless they were hoping maybe that they could keep Joey at third, play Bryce at shortstop, and then maybe Caleb would actually be better at second. I just am confused why you have a platinum glove winner. So out of all the Gold Glovers, he was the best, and they gave him the platinum glove.
Don't touch him.
I don't know why they wanted to move him in the first place when Joey was always like, it was, oh, well, now that Joey's here, maybe Bryce can just stay at second, So I don't really understand. It's not good that his shoulder was bothering him and they were concerned about his throws coming from shortstop. Like, that's never great. However, I will say, ultimately, I think he should have been playing second. So, right conclusion, wrong process being an injury, but hopefully he's good to go. That also makes that infield versatility probably a question, which is probably why they keep Collins, why they really smart go, why Canna isn't here. There is questions about Jake Bauers. He started off super hot last year, and then he got sent down to the minor leagues, never really was able to get his way back up until they expanded roster. So I'm still kind of just like, if Bauers is the guy and you think he's the guy, then make him the guy. And if you're not, are you maybe looking to see what shakes loose around the rest of the league, and hopefully maybe you can sign somebody?
Could be,
because I think they're going to be okay with a Dunn Capra platoon. I mean, you just make. I don't
think they have a choice.
Yeah, well, especially because they sent down the U, right? So, Andrew Monasterio. I realize maybe not everyone calls him the U. But colloquially in a Discord I'm in, that's what we refer to him as, the U. He got sent down. So,
and that was after having a decent spring too.
Right. So they're just kind of saying, we know what you are, and at this point we think we can do
better.
Yeah. So,
and hopefully that's true.
So, yeah. And then the last little big roster thing, I know I said vamp, but I do want to kind of button up some of these broader points too. Sounds like they're heavily considering starting, as per a report from Kurt Hogue, the Hog. I call his tweets the Hog logs. TM. It's not officially up, but it sounds like the Brewers are leaning towards rostering Abner to begin the year. He has to serve a 4-game suspension, which they can get out of the way right away. I think it's great. I think Abner has come in his spring league, in his spring training starts, and he's looked great. So get him in. It's awesome that it got reduced down to 4, and let's just get it out of the way. Trevor can hold down the closing duties until then, and I'm not 100% convinced Abner's going to get start and slot over him when Trevor McGill produced while Devin Williams was out last year. So we'll see. There's a lot of questions. I don't claim to know everything. And to be perfectly candid, there's so much up and down, and there's so much splits and statistical reasons why you start guys over other guys in baseball. It's a little over my head. I'm trying as hard as I can this year to get on board with why decisions are being made, taking a look at the stats. So that's my pledge to the viewers, is to try to do my stat corner in baseball. But it is It has long been a blind spot of mine as somebody who, when I worked at the stadium, I just watched the games because I was there and I had to watch them. So trying to get a little more of an analysis hat on. But yeah, all right, predictions.
Yes. Prediction. Go ahead.
All right, first one. How many games? No, first prediction is who wins?
You gotta tell me.
Oh, I'm making it up on the fly.
You got to tell me what the win-loss total is for the Milwaukee Brewers in the year 2025.
Okay. And there's 162 games?
162. You can also just tell me like
how many wins?
How many above 500?
I'm going to say it cuz I like being positive.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Brewers hit over 90 wins this season.
Okay.
Which is way higher than I think what a lot of people are expecting.
Well, they had 93 wins last year.
Yeah, I think they get 90 wins. I think they hit the 91 mark. So the 8 games over 500.
So you do think that they're going to regress, but it's going to be pretty darn close.
I think they are. How about this? I don't think they regress. I think the rest of the Central has caught up. I think the Reds look really good. I think the Cubs look really good. And I just think we got so far ahead in third place because we were beating the piss out of a really bad NL Central. So I just think the rest.
Remember too that in baseball now that the way that they changed the lineups and how teams you play every team,
right?
So you don't play the Pirates 20 times now,
right? I know, but they still are free wins, and it matters
the times they play them.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it just matters. So we wouldn't have ran away with the Central. But we kept everybody was beating those teams, but it only really helped because in the Central, when we beat a team, they also lost a game against us.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They mean more. We had all of our meaningful in division games go our way pretty much. So anyways, I think they're going to win 90 games. What do you have them at?
So this is kind of messed up the way my brain thinks, which is a surprise to no one. I have that they're going to win 88 games.
Okay.
Which is 5 less than last year, but I think they're going to be a better team.
Okay.
So they're going to.
I like this.
They're going to win 5 less games, but they're going to be a more competitive, better at playoff time team. Okay. I feel like last year was kind of an anomaly. It was kind of like what Craig did for a while. Now Murph was doing, but it was Murph's first year, and so it was like undeniable that he was manager of the year because they were like, this is your first year and you're doing the same shit that Council did. But there were so many times last season where the Brewers were throwing whatever the heck they could out there and they won.
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, how many starting pitchers did they have? 20?
Yeah,
how many?
I think it was like 18. They started 18 different pitchers
over the place, and they kept finding ways to win. I don't see that being the recipe this year. Mm-hmm. I don't see it being whatever's healthy on the shelf, throw it out there and see if it sticks, and getting wins that way. Because I feel like that was the problem when it came down the stretch. I'm really hoping that you see some of these young guys that shine, Terang, Mitchell, etc. You see some of these young guns, and Churio obviously, put on a clinic near the end of the year. If these guys can now start being something, right? No longer that rookie, take off the shiny tag that says I'm new, and show that they've improved, that they can improve. That this team will be a bigger threat. However, I don't think they're going to put up numbers that put, the manager of the year back on the table. Like, yeah. I don't see them winning 93 games.
Yeah, I would bet money that Murphy does not. He might not even sniff a manager of the year vote this year because now it's just to be expected. Right. And like you said, I think hopefully less injuries means his work on the lineups won't be as interesting or hopefully less stressful, to be honest. Hopefully it's a lot more straightforward as the year goes. I mean, that won't be the case because it's a baseball team and that's what happens. However, that's what you can hope for, right? Yeah, we don't have to do a bunch of like predictions like other baseball specific
I'm gonna mark
podcast
this
do.
down.
But I am curious.
Ink and paper. That
Great.
John said 93 wins,
I did not. I said 90.
90 wins, and Josh said 88.
Do
All
they?
right.
And then you can write a check or an X next to it. Do they win the NL Central with 88 wins? Yes or no?
Ooh, they better. They better, because I don't think they're getting a wild card at 88. Just looking at how everyone else finished last year, the Braves and Mets both had 89, and the Padres had 93, and the Diamondbacks had 89.
Yeah.
So if you have 88 wins, you missed the playoffs.
Yep.
Last year. So I just think there's still powerhouses in the West and in the East that are going to be hard to battle with. And I really didn't see a ton of improvement. Not that I was paying super close attention, and I hate the Cardinals more than anything.
The Cardinals are trash. They've like shrunk the payroll down to like the Brewers equivalent. They said they're done pushing their chips all in. That
Yeah,
they
they're
need to,
in,
like, get back
they're in
there.
straight rebuild, which doesn't mean anything. I don't count the Cardinals out until they are literally eliminated. That's what they do.
Yeah, I think
they've scarred me for life.
Yeah, I'm significantly more concerned that the Cubs or the Reds might just finally realize all the talent that they have. I mean, the Cubs went out and acquired a lot of talent. It's a very different baseball team than it was last year. And because they have the payroll to do so, every year you have to recalibrate your litmus test, kind of like the Cardinals. Like, are they a team that can do it? And on paper, it looks like they could be. I think at 90 wins, I think the Brewers win the NL Central. So you can write yes.
Here's what's funny. At 88 wins, I'm not sure they do.
Mm-hmm.
At your 90 wins, I think they do.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think so too.
So even though I'm predicting they get 88 wins, I'm gonna say if I'm wrong and they get to your 90, they'll win.
Okay.
If they get to my 88, they better pray that some other teams falter.
Well, part of my positive prediction about 90
spots.
is because I answered that question first. I said, do the Brewers win the Central? And I said, yes, in my brain. I said, well, what are they going to have to get to? And I think it's 90. I think between Reese and Jackson, Churio, and some other guys, I think they can replicate Adamas's power. What they need to do is just not be in a situation where they needed Willie for like 10 straight games to hit like multiple home runs in a game, you know? So
I don't know, man. Reese has got to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. He's had a great spring. Hopefully another season removed from the injury. We'll find out. I don't know. He did not live up to that contract.
Not even a little bit.
But he opted in, and he's our first baseman. And he's a starting caliber.
He played like shit.
I'm aware of that, Josh, but this is the situation that we're in. You know, ideally, he would have opted out because he played so great, but he didn't. But in the situation that we currently live in, Reese has had a really great spring. Yeah. And if Christian Yelich's back surgery, I mean, we haven't even talked about Yeli.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It's just like if he turns into Brooke Lopez and he starts bombing shots from three, you know, his big thing is just going to be watching exit velocity, right? If he's hitting for power like he was pre those injuries, if this, you know, or is at least sniffing close. Obviously, father time comes for all of us, and so do I expect him to be hitting at the same rate?
He was doing so good before that back surgery, though.
I know. So if he can get back to where he was last year, or more consistently, or if we see him flash in even better ways, he's still a demon on the bases. That's what's so funny is he's still an incredible leadoff hitter too. You know what I mean? Like he hits for contact. Well, there's so much stuff that he does right. It's like if he can stay healthy, I think that's another huge thing. I think Jackson is a guy through and through. I think this contract is going to age fantastically, and we are going to be laughing that
oh god,
he just turned 21. Anyways, it's great. There's so much fun to be excited about the Brewers, even if they hit 88 and don't make the league. Like there's so many things that can happen throughout the season that as long as they're competitive, I won't even consider to watch with how young and exciting the team is, right? But we talked about it last year. The problem is they got so far ahead in the Central that we said, hey, great, you're no longer this like plucky can they won't they team. Like you're going to get in, so you need to figure out how to win. And so hopefully, you know, there's always trade deadline moves that can be made. There's always
okay, so that's going to be my one question for you.
Yeah.
Is Hoskins still at first base at the trade deadline?
Yes. I say almost emphatically yes. And the reason being is that if he produces even a little bit more than what he did last year, is he's going to be the best option that we have, given the fact that we won't want to take on a contract. I don't really know if we'd want to sell parts. Like either he's so bad that they're going to trade him away just to get rid of him, and that is a problem too, So yeah, I think he'll be the first baseman.
Okay.
Just given
we'll see.
Value versus contract. You got to think like if he can produce even just a little bit more, 5 more home runs than he hit last year, and we're going, this is pretty solid. This is pretty good.
Yeah, better.
It should be a lot more, hopefully, this year. But I just mean, it wouldn't have taken much more production for us. Really, what I want to see is him playing better defense. That's the problem. When he was really great, before his injury, his hitting in Philly made up for his blunders of first. But it's like, we are a defense first team, man. So, maybe he's been motivated to figure that out. But there were some pretty boneheaded mistakes that got pretty frustrating. But
we hope so.
I mean, I'd love also, here's the thing. I would love to maybe get a better answer at first base and have him live in DH land, for most of it,
True.
Have him alternating between him and Yelly, once Blake's back, giving guys rest. And then also obviously seeing Contreras either get full blown days off or just DHing more. I think he said in an article over spring training, he gave a quote that he's like, I'm ready to take more rest days. And I think Eric Haas has proven to be a solid backup catcher. I think he'll be great until Caro is ready to go. Jefferson Caro is ready to go.
Yep.
So I think like there's just opportunities to get us a little, hopefully more rested and ready to go for the fall, which feels criminal to be talking about in March, but it's the way it goes, right?
That's true.
When you built a competitive roster, which they have, which people might not want to hear, may not be the most competitive roster, but it's competitive enough.
They won the Central. You can't say they have nothing out there, and they won it by 10 games.
Yep.
And even that means that even if the other team sucked,
they
still had the third best record in the National League. That's something. So, all right. So that's baseball. Quickly, Packers news. There's nothing happening with the Packers, although former Packer Aaron Rodgers is not more than likely not going to New York, as the Giants have now they've got their quarterback, right?
Yeah, the Giants signed Jameis Winston to a deal on Friday, and they re-signed Danny DeVito. I think all but guaranteeing the fact that they realized they were not going to win the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. And then reports came out on Friday as well. Adam Schefter saying Aaron Rodgers spent about 6 hours at the Steelers facility training meeting with their coaches. Had to be a positive visit, and those two sides will stay in touch. So the dream of Aaron Rodgers going to Minnesota is not dead. However, I will continue to peddle this idea that it just doesn't make sense for the Vikings. They have JJ. If his medical's clear, start JJ McCarthy.
What's crazy to me? The way that this goes with Rodgers is going to so depend. Like, I'm so on opposite ends of how I'm going to feel about him based on where he goes.
Mm-hmm.
If he goes to the Steelers, I'm all for it. I'm not going to buy a Rodgers jersey, but like, I'll cheer him on. I got no problem with him being there. I'd love to see what him and Tomlin can do. Like, that'd be fun. I'm completely neutral. I don't know why I did not feel that way about the Jets for some reason. I don't know. But if he found success, not Super Bowl success, but success in Pittsburgh, I'd be fine. Mm-hmm. If he goes to Minnesota, it's all a joke. Like, it's laughable. The whole thing is now it's just Favre 2, and it's all a joke.
Yep.
And so I don't know how it's going to go down, but how I will react to it as a fan are polar opposites.
Yep. Yeah, that's all I got Packers are still, I still think Derek Harmon is the answer at 23 for the Packers if we're talking draft stuff. I think they need to attack defensive tackle and defensive end in the first couple rounds, sprinkle in a Jalen Royals and call that happy for the draft. Like I said, we can do a real draft primer as it gets closer, but just keeping people in loop with my thoughts, I think they need to find their Kenny Clark replacement. If you look at all the metrics that the Packers have historically hit or wanted to hit with their defensive tackles, I think Derek Harmon is a no-brainer. I think he'll be there. If anybody falls, it'd be interesting, but we'll go through that further. And then, since we spoke last, I also think actually have the Bucs played 3 times since Wednesday.
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're right. So they're 2-1 since that game. Man, I wish ESPN did a better job of just telling you when the game was. Maybe they do it. Anywho's.
It still feels to me like the Bucks fire is dwindling. The Bucks played the Pacers on the 15th. They won that game 126-119.
Yep.
Then they lost to the Thunder at home 121-105.
Right. What date was
that?
That
was Sunday.
Yeah.
So that was since the last podcast. And then they got crushed by the Warriors 104-93, and that was on Tuesday.
Okay. So since that's right. Because while we were recording, Doc Rivers called a 3-person star meeting with Giannis and Dame. Interestingly enough, after that Haynes report, they've went 2-0. Dame has not played in either of those 2 games. He is not slated to play in their game against the Suns tomorrow, their first time playing against Mike Budenholzer, interestingly enough. The Suns are terrible. They are, you think, if you want to talk about like what could or should have the Bucks done with this roster, just look at the Suns, man. They're so bad. They're so bad, and I don't understand why. I think there's a really good chance Budenholzer might not even make it to the end of the season, which is awful, but it's bad. It's bad. And so we'll see what goes on. I'm curious about what, if any of those conversations from the meetings leak out, or if they talk about it further with like an Eric Name
the
piece.
funny thing is, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care as long as they're winning.
Yeah. Well, my big thing is Dame's not playing. So was Dame playing through something hurt, negging injury, and maybe it's just going, hey, maybe it's better to just take this time off. We're down Sims, we're down Bobby. Like, these games are already a struggle. Let's just see what's going on. But I'll tell you this, that Kings game started off real slow. And then Giannis reminded everybody in the second half that when he wants to be the best player in the world, he can turn that on.
Can do it.
And so I don't know what's going on, if they're trying to run plays away from him or are trying to do, I don't know what is going on. I don't know what Dave Yeager is getting paid to do, if this is what their offensive sets look like. You know, I don't know if what our defense is doing. I don't know. All I know is what I continue to know is that if Giannis is healthy in the playoffs and Dame is healthy in the playoffs, you still can't count this Bucks team out. So I want to see more energy in the first half. I still don't want to see Taurean Prince in the starting lineup, but or take Kuzma and put him on the bench. We already talked about this. Just something needs to change.
Make a change. They don't make changes.
But the changes, Dame's been off, and so that's been not great. But Ryan Rollins has started. I don't think not having Dame is the answer. They're the highest scoring duo, even as it's feeling clunky. I mean, they're going to write books about this. How what was projected as to be the easiest fit in terms of like a pick and roll, aggressive downhill attacking point guard who has a legendary 3. It should work with Giannis. And I don't know if it's an unwilling. Giannis refuses to set a strong screen. Like, that could not be more obvious. And he's never been asked to, but you'd think by now they would have figured it out. And it's copacetic. It's working enough, but hopefully, I don't know. I'm hoping maybe that meeting, once Dame's back, maybe we see some interesting lineup stuff that kind of proves something different's been happening. I mean, Pat's been getting minutes again. Maybe some, Ajax has been finding his way back on the court. It's mostly due to injuries, it's my guess. Not like they're dying to play Ajax again, but we'll keep monitoring. The season's almost over. There's really not much to say. Sure. I wish I could say we were fighting for the 4 seed, but just knowing the way the schedule is going to shake out, it kind of seems like we're just talking about the 5th seed and making sure we can hold on to that, which I hate. But I don't really know what else to say there about it, right? Like,
time will tell with the Bucks.
Yeah.
And they just gotta figure out the things they gotta figure out, as generic as that may be.
Yeah. They're one game behind the Pacers. I'm pretty sure because of that win in Milwaukee, I'm pretty sure they have the tiebreaker. So we'll see. It's just the problem is the Pacers keep winning. Their schedule is easier. At some point, ours levels out pretty good too. So as long as we can hold on, we'll see. I mean, the third seed dream is dead, which means we're going to play Cleveland in the second round if we make it through. And that fucking terrifies me.
Yeah, that's not great.
But you never know. You just never know. So I'm not about to inject that kind of negativity with several minutes left in the pod. So go Bucks.
Good.
Go Brewers.
Good. Love it.
Go Ducks in this game.
Yeah, which by the way, at the time of this recording, the start of this game, Oregon was crushing Arizona, and now they're down by 2.
Yeah, Michigan State's climbed back to be back within 2 of New Mexico. So I'll probably watch the end of these games just to see what happens. But
Because March Madness is still great.
it's still great. Yeah.
All right. The next time we are talking, it will be post Brewers home opening day. It'll also be post opening day, but it will be post home opening day. Cannot wait for baseball that counts to finally be here.
That whole series will be over because they're off Friday because they're worried about rain, and then they go Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, right? So
I believe so. Yep.
And a little scheduling. Josh is going on another trip.
Yep. I will be gone again, but I will be home for opening day. I do not miss opening day.
Yeah. So we'll be probably recording
week.
Tuesday, so you'll probably see that on your feed early Wednesday morning. So we'll at least have a whole weekend. By then the roster will be. So all of this stuff that you just listened to will be out of the window, but it's fun to talk about. It's fun to speculate. We're fans. This is what all fans think about. What's the roster going to be?
And don't tell us how to fan.
And don't tell me how to fan, damn it.
That's right.
And to all you non-wrestling fans, I don't think we're going to get it in. Other than this question, Josh, what's up with that Roosevelt's t-shirt you sent me? When are they? What's the pattern going to look like?
I don't know what one you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
No, the Roosevelt's, the company that I wear all these shirts for, has a Rhea Ripley shirt, at least a Rhea Ripley shirt coming out. They usually do a drop like the week of WrestleMania.
Got it.
So not like before, so you can wear the shirt at WrestleMania. Like
right.
It's always like the week of. So
it's okay.
It'll probably be out sometime this week.
I bought a Hundreds. The streetwear company did a collab with The Rock, and it it's like all of the arrows of The Rock, and then it has every WrestleMania he appeared at on the back, kind of like a tour T-shirt. Same thing. Oh,
nice.
Released it. They announced it the week of WrestleMania. Didn't get it until I think May. It was like a full month and a half.
I hate it.
I don't know because
I hate that places.
They're just trying to capitalize on the excitement of WrestleMania.
But you don't think I'm excited about WrestleMania now?
I don't disagree.
Give me the damn shirt.
Get the damn shirt. Buy the shirts.
Buy all the merch. Buy all the gear, people. That's right. All right. Thank you, John, for this. I can't wait. We're gonna have so much to talk about next pod. Cannot wait for that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you haven't already, make sure to go to the Spotify and Apple Podcasts, depending on which one you use, and click that follow button on the podcast version as well if you can't watch the entire thing on YouTube. Otherwise, we do appreciate you being here on YouTube as well. Appreciate you. Cannot wait to talk next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Tune in next time because we are not done yet.
Yeet.